Okay, so now that we've all had a chance to see the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer, let me ask you, who are you rooting for? Are you Team Godzilla or are you Team Kong? You know me, I'm Team Kong, and I'll let you know why I'm Team Kong right after the intro. Welcome to the DL Jones Books channel. I'm your host, DL Jones, and on this channel, I talk about all types of story-related topics. Could be movies, TV shows, video games, audiobooks, books, anything that has a story could potentially become a topic on this channel. Now, like I said, in this episode, I'm talking about Godzilla vs. Kong, the upcoming movie going to release on HBO Max and at the end of March. And I want to know, who are you rooting for? Are you Team Godzilla or are you Team Kong? Now, me, I'm Team Kong. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, but first, before we get into that, I'm going to talk about, how I grew up with Godzilla and King Kong and what they mean to me and my experience as far as my memory of those, from my childhood and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to King Kong and Godzilla, I can't really say that King Kong has played a big part in my life as a kid. Because to be honest with you, the only thing I can ever really remember King Kong being in, the only movie I ever remember really seeing is the King Kong movie that came out in the 70s. I mean, of course, I didn't see it when it first came out, but that was my first experience with King Kong was that movie. Now, later on, I did see the black and white one that came out, years prior. I think that came out in the 30s or 40s or something like that. I did see that one like later on, but my first experience with King Kong is the one that came out in the 70s, the one where he climbed up the World Trade Center and he got shot off and died at the end. That's the one that I know. That's my King Kong. Now, as far as Godzilla, back then growing up, I've seen a lot of Godzilla movies, They had all of these different Godzilla movies where each movie he had a different monster he was fighting. Godzilla versus Mothra, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus this and that. And I just remember growing up that on Sundays, they used to have these monster movie madness hours and stuff like that. I remember, it's two things I remember from growing up that they used to do was Kung Fu. They used to have the little Kung Fu movies that came on either Saturdays or Sundays, and then sometimes they would do, the monster movies, which would be mostly Godzilla movies, him fighting all of the other different monsters. So that's what I remember about Godzilla. Godzilla, I just remember him fighting a lot of monsters and stuff. Now, when it comes to King Kong, when you go back to that movie from the 70s, for the most part, it was just King Kong. He wasn't really fighting any other monsters. It was more sort of like a tragic story because, when you look at it, they pretty much kidnapped him from his land and brought him to New York and was, put him in almost like a circus stage act. It was like they was exploiting him and stuff like that. And finally he gets loose and he just runs rampant on the street until they shoot him down. But, it wasn't really, to me, I never really remembered King Kong as a monster that fought other monsters from back then. Now, later on, they came out with movies and then you saw him fighting other monsters like the King Kong movie from 2005 and the most recent one, Skull Island or Kong Island or whatever that was called. But before then, my experience with King Kong was the movies from the 70s. Now, I did see the one where they had a Kong versus Godzilla movie or Godzilla versus King Kong years ago, and I think that particular movie was made by the Godzilla people, and not necessarily the King Kong people. But that movie, I seen it and I don't quite remember it, but what I do remember, it seemed like it was not serious at all. It seemed like it was along the Laurel and Hardy and Three Stooges level kind of, silliness, as far as that movie is concerned, which all of the Godzilla movies had some of that in it anyway. But I specifically remember the Godzilla versus King Kong movie from back then to really be just silly. The vision I have in my mind of that movie is King Kong running around a big rock hiding from Godzilla, goofy stuff like that. So for the most part, you know, King Kong has kind of been like this kind of tragic story, the one that, you know, that's the main story of King Kong, you know. And then it's that silly movie where he fought Godzilla that, you know, I never even took seriously. So why am I Team Kong? Well, the main thing is, if you remember, I can't remember if it was Skull Island or the 2005 Peter Jackson Kong movie. I'm gonna have to look it up to see which one it was. But if you remember, in whichever movie it was, King Kong fought a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you know. So, and I kind of compare his fight with the Tyrannosaurus Rex to be similar to how it would be if he fought Godzilla. Because while Godzilla has a few more tricks up his sleeve than a Tyrannosaurus Rex, he is basically a similar type of creature or a monster. You know, he's like a tall lizard, you know, and pretty much his weapons are biting. And I can't really remember Godzilla really biting too many people. And he got the little arms, so it's not like he's going to be throwing punches or nothing like that. He just got like those little small useless arms, sort of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And, you know, he has a tail, which he can use his tail in battle too. And like Godzilla's biggest weapon is his breathing fire, you know, the fire breath or the radiation breath or whatever type of breath that is. That's his main weapon for the most part, you know. Whereas when you look at King Kong is a gorilla. You know, he pretty much beat people up with his fist, toss people around, slam them, and he's really agile and he can jump around and he's super strong and stuff like that. So he just got more tools. You know, when they get to start fighting each other, he just got more tools. The only difference is that Godzilla has the one tool that may trump all of King Kong's tool, and that's the fire breathing, you know. Now Godzilla has that. And if I remember correctly, in the old school Godzilla versus King Kong movie, that was a part that King Kong, you know, Godzilla was pretty much beating up King Kong the whole time. And one of the reasons was because of that fire breath. He had a hard time dealing with that. And it wasn't until King Kong got shocked with lightning and that lightning somehow made him stronger, which is something I've never seen or heard talked about in any other type of King Kong movie, unless I'm missing something. And it makes me wonder if that's going to be something that comes into play in this movie. You know, in that old school movie, King Kong got stronger when he got shocked by lightning. It's like it powered him. You know, will that come into play in this movie? Will they come up with some kind of way to give him an electric shock so that he can get stronger? But talking about the fire breathing, it looked like from the trailer, if you remember in the trailer, it seems like they came up with something, with a weapon that King Kong will use to have some kind of defense against the fire breathing. And that's that axe. You know, you see in the trailer, he has an axe, and the axe looked like it was made from one of the spikes from Godzilla's back. That's what it looked like to me. I'm not sure if that's what it is or not, but when I was looking at the trailer, that's how it appeared to me. And it made me think, you know, when, you know, in some of the older King Kong movies, you know, he ripped animals apart. It's like that, the one thing I can remember, and I think he done it in 2 different movies, where he grabbed the jaw of the creature he was fighting and just basically ripped it apart, you know. And that's something he could do to Godzilla, you know. The only thing I saw, which I was wondering about, which I brought up in my review of the trailer, is that, you know, I never knew, from what I know about King Kong, I never knew him to be the same size as Godzilla. You know, he always seemed like he was a very large ape, but he wasn't like a Titan type size like Godzilla is. But when you look at the trailer, he is. They put him in that same class of monster. And for one thing, if you look in the most recent King Kong movie, The Skull Island, you know, they make a couple of comments that will lead you to believe that in Kong Island, King Kong was not a fully grown creature yet. He wasn't an adult, so he had some more growing to do. And maybe that's how they're going to justify his size. Like maybe in Godzilla versus Kong, he is now an adult and he has grown to his adult size, which is now a size similar to Godzilla. But yeah, you know, when I think about this movie, you know, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a one-sided fight. They got to do something to make it interesting. But just by looking at both of those creatures, by the way they fight, you have King Kong, who has all kinds of weapons. He can throw punches. He can, you know, smash people. He can pick people up and throw them on the ground. He uses tools. He can use weapons and stuff like that. And he's fast. He can jump around. He can move out the way. And then you look at Godzilla, and Godzilla pretty much just slumbers around, you know, and he got little arms that you can't really do much with. And he does have a tail. He can use his tail. But he does have the thing that kind of really sets things off, and that's the fire breathing. That's, you know, shooting him with the breath, the blue fire beams from his mouth, you know. Now that's the thing King Kong will have to try to, you know, get around, you know. And I think that axe, that's probably why they have that axe, because you see in the trailer, you know, he's blocking his breath with that axe, you know. So that may be a way to try to even things out, you know, because without that, I won't say that King Kong can't win, but it would be a really, really harder fight if he was to fight him without any kind of weapons and Godzilla blowing, you know, the fire breathing on him and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where I am right now. I'm looking at King Kong, you know, if I was to like bet on this, like if it was an MMA fight, you know, and you got King Kong and Godzilla, I feel like King Kong got too many tools. Godzilla has one super strong tool, you know, but I believe that King Kong can get around that, you know, and once he get around that, he got too many tools to lose, you know. So I'm going with King Kong. I'm Team Kong. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Who are you pulling for? Are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla? And whichever one you are, you know, I'm curious to know why. You know, what makes you think that the person that you are rooting for is going to win? Before we go, make sure you click that subscribe button, click like, and thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time. You made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. While you're here, why don't you check out that video right there, or maybe that one right there. And you know, while you're at it, go ahead and click my image in the middle there and subscribe to this channel.